Welcome to the Curated Beauty Podcast. Jessica Christie here, a health and beauty enthusiast who became a medical practitioner to be the authority on how to enhance both your outer beauty and inner beauty for the most confident glow. Founding and owning a multi-million-dollar aesthetic medical practice in Michigan, my mission is to bring all the bi-coastal innovations to the fresh coast of Michigan, from which aesthetic treatment gives you the most bang for your buck to how to create systems to be both professionally fulfilled and still have freedom of time and relationships. We will be diving into it all. Welcome back, everyone. This is Jessica Christie, your host and CEO of Beauty Culture Medspa. I had all these ideas to record things and I fell ill. I got that common cold that's really popular with the return to school and fall, all that good stuff. So I am back with a topic today that is meaningful in my own personal life and business journey, but also I feel like so relevant to people who are in the aesthetics community and potentially want to open their own business. What does that look like? Where do they begin? All the deets on that. So I'm going to talk about transitioning from myself being a practitioner to a visionary leader. I remember when this topic first came up for me, I was in a one-on-one business coaching session with my business coach, Kaylee Lindholm, who, if you are not working with a business coach and you own a business and you're in the medical aesthetics community, she really is so impactful at working with female leaders who are in the space and who have stumbled upon success, but have none of the internal systems to really set you up for not just having a high-paying job, but a lucrative entrepreneurship. One of the things that we were talking about was me wanting to potentially speak on platforms and submit for conferences. And she's like, gosh, there's a lot of people talking about techniques. Obviously, you're good at that, but I really see you being so strong in the business acumen section and really truthfully talking about being a visionary leader and getting team buy-in. So where do we begin with all of that? Well, I suppose the best starting point is to really understand the difference between what a practitioner is and what a visionary is. And kind of even backtracking a little bit from there, I really understood this concept by the whole Michael E. Gerber E-Myth concept. He really broke it down in terms of the E-Myth standing for entrepreneurial myth, and the core message really being that many small businesses are started by people who have this entrepreneurial seizure, and I've talked about this before. And they are like, I'm so good at my job, I'm going to go start a new business. So they do that, but they don't necessarily understand what it takes to run a successful business. And that is very commonplace in our aesthetics practices, but also with the huge trend to go open your own practice, because there's really a low barrier and a low threshold to being able to do so as of now. But this is a very self-regulated industry, which in history, there's never been a self-regulated industry that remains self-regulated. I don't know what that looks like for all of us, but I'm going to do my part in trying to help with that. When I look at that and I think about starting my own journey, I saw myself primarily as the provider. I was super hands-on. I was skill-focused, the expert in the room with the patient. And that is what a provider or a practitioner is. And I fell into the trap of thinking that because I was good at what I did, I could easily run my business and it would be successful. But the truth is that there are three business personalities, and they are the technician, which is that provider, that practitioner, the doer, the expert, the one who is so good at the work, but they get bogged down by the details. And I began my journey here, and I was passionate about delivering good patient outcomes and treatments, but there comes problems with the business and problems that need to be solved. And who's going to do that? Okay, so then you become the manager. And you're organizing and solving, and they're the ones who are trying to create order out of chaos. But then you really need someone to step into the true entrepreneurship role, the visionary, the person that dreams bigger, looks at the big picture, can make really good calculated risk-averse decisions to move the business forward and really continue with innovation and strategy, because, there's a lot of that going on in this industry. And are you going to be left behind and just doing what we did 20 years ago? Or are you going to continue to innovate and go back to the drawing board? Do you have original ideas? So the key takeaways obviously is that you need all three key components within the business. Yet many of the small business owners are stuck in the technician or practitioner role, which really leads to burnout, potential business failure. And man, I was having a conversation yesterday after golfing with one of my colleagues, and she was like, these people have no idea really what is beneath social media. We can make things look real shiny on the surface of social media, but there are going to be a lot of medical aesthetic practices, unfortunately, that go out of business because they're just not set up with the infrastructure and they're not putting in the work to actually being a visionary leader to be able to handle waves of things that are coming at us like private equity and just one unforeseen event that can really rock your business. So my real personal revelation came when I realized that while I loved being the provider in the room and I really was heartbroken at the thought of giving that up for my growing business, everything required more of me. And my business, we talk about this a lot in my leadership academy too, is that my business has its own soul and its own heartbeat, and it requires something of me. I need to show up for that business and the soul that it has. And so it needed structure and vision and forward momentum and someone to make the hard decisions. And it was something that me as a technician could not provide. And so this realization really forced me into like whole new territories. Stepping back from the day to day, I began to really look at my business as a whole instead of the part that I played in it, different than just the services that we provided patients. I mean, we can all in this industry offer dream outcomes, but what are we doing to set ourselves apart differently? And then what are the systems inside of that to set that up and create expectations and really create fluidity inside of the heartbeat of my entire business and make sure that people are happy and fulfilled that work for the business. So this shift was really challenging and it required a new set of skills and a huge fresh mindset. In fact, back in January, I told my husband and everybody on Instagram, without even telling my husband, who is a partner in my business, that I was not going to focus on growth. I was going to focus on scaling in efforts to grow again, but that I wasn't just trying to bring in revenue, that I was really trying to take a seat and really look at everything with a fine-toothed comb and reinvent how we were doing things and focus on strategies in the business and transforming the actual business rather than just client and patient transformations. Well, that was scary because I was investing a lot in business coaching. I was taking a step back from being the biggest revenue producer. I was embracing the role not only as then the manager, but also the entrepreneur. And I used to feel so weird saying I'm the CEO of Beauty Culture, but now I feel proud and I feel like I've put the work in and showed up every day in the last year to really be able to say that with a lot of beaming pride. So I was able to guide Beauty Culture towards the path of sustainable growth and success and be able to implement new things. I was inventing systems, relying on teams that are integrators, consistently evolving my role as the business owner and being averse to failure. You're going to fail at certain things that you set out to do. But at the same time, I knew that my business was not going to be able to sustain the long haul. And that was like a really hard look in the mirror. Then I was able to then start snowballing the success of what it could look like for me to actually reinvent the wheel and actually be not only just an early adopter or someone that was looked at in the industry as someone that's doing a good job or delivering really good before and afters on Instagram, but I was truly someone who was capable of innovating new systems and having proprietary methods and being able to relay that information to my community and then urge budding entrepreneurs and business owners to reflect on their own roles and their own ventures and where do you fit and are you balancing these roles or is one dominating in your business and recognizing that that on its own and that uncomfortable space that a lot of us have sat in is the first step to transformative growth. So I really have to share that that is where I started in this whole space. And, it's been uncomfortable to have to explain to my patients that I'm not the one in the room, but that, hey, I'm the one investing in the people that are. And we're doing things with a lot of brand recognition and expertise behind our name. So I really wanted to talk about really quantifying or qualifying rather the pros and the cons of being a visionary and helping you to make those decisions on your own. Number one, the pro of being a visionary is long-term strategy. So as the visionary now, I get to spend most of my time not so much tangled up in the day-to-day minutia, but I'm free to dream bigger and envision where I want the company to be in 5 or 10 or even 20 years down the road. And I think about a lot of times what we've done as a medical practice and a medical standpoint and how wrong we've really served this field of medicine. We all are energy and we live from the inside out rather than the outside in. And we're told that we color inside the lines and look at even the right and left, like the left-handed kids were considered like a sinister way that the brain worked and we were correcting children. But could doctors be tricked to be trained this way rather than trained as artists? But they still could be doctors. Like, what did this do to our inner circulatory brain? Like, there's a lot of deep questions that hone in on that whole concept alone. And when we're correcting societal tendencies, how are we limiting the diversity that could have emerged and kind of crippling the whole medical community and the medical aesthetics community from fostering balance between logic and creativity? And when we are thinking about moving into being a visionary leader, we need to be more open-minded and encourage diverse ways of thinking and challenging societal norms and traditions of how we've always done things. We need to embrace that energy and that potential within ourselves. That is so important in terms of sitting back and thinking bigger. Number 2, another pro of being a visionary is that effective delegation. So transitioning to this role, it means that you are the visionary, you have these great ideas, but that you effectively need to delegate these tasks to other skilled team members. So they're more of like your integrators in your system. And they are the ones who actually bring that vision into reality. Something that's really helped me with this, and again, I got this from my business coach, is really utilizing delegation filters and then some sort of internal communication like Asana, for example, a task management system where you're able to check in with who's doing what, when are you doing it by, celebrating milestones, really clear communication. If you don't have clear communication, how can you expect anyone to do anything for you? Number 3 pro of being a visionary is increased scale. So this shift has allowed us to scale like never before. We're able to onboard multiple employees at once. We're able to identify new markets. We're able to communicate with our patients more effectively. We're able to launch new services very quickly. And we are hopefully able to even reproduce this entire business in another state, which is super exciting. Number 4 is personal growth. So for me, stepping into this visionary role, I tell people all the time, this has been a tremendous avenue for personal growth and something that I value very deeply. I spend probably about 30% of my time, not all working hours, but 30% of my time reading, growing, meditating, in my own thoughts, really working on who I am and how I show up. So I think that for anyone who is looking to do that, welcome to being a visionary, because that is the quickest way to personally grow yourself. Okay, so let's talk about a couple of cons that you really need to consider before you think about jumping into this entrepreneurial role. It's not all roses, peeps. There's challenges that you really need to be aware of. So number 1 would be definitely for me, the loss of hands-on work. I really, really, really miss my patients. I miss those interactions. And also I need to still have them. So I'm continuing to try to think of ways other than my trainings to keep my hands on patients, because you need that skill. You need to keep injecting. You can never lose that. It is somewhat like riding a bike, but it's very, very important. Another thing is number 2, increased responsibility. So as the visionary, the buck stops with you. When things go wrong, it's your fault, and they will go wrong. And you're the one that is responsible for setting things right. So I was just talking to my husband about this yesterday. Like, I feel like I put so much effort into things because I don't want to appear weak to my team. But he reminded me, and maybe he doesn't even realize his words, but he reminded me that vulnerability is a strength. It is something that I celebrate in my business. And you're allowed to say that you made a mistake. I've made so many mistakes, but it's about what you do with them. And it's about owning them to your team so that they're allowed to make mistakes and learn from them too. So it's not necessarily a con, but there's a lot of responsibility going on there. Okay, number 3, where are my control freaks at? Difficulty in letting go. Delegating is so hard because you think that if you do it, it's going to be perfect, right? But you have to find that whole concept by Dan Sullivan, who, not how do you do everything, who can do it just as good or better than you, that you can trust implicitly. Number 4, it is not for everyone. being a visionary requires a different skill set. And it takes a certain kind of courage, audacity, willpower, rigor, flexibility, being risk tolerant. I think when you look at even in other jobs to consider, there's sales reps who make a lot of money, that can be injectors. And then there's the manager who actually makes less money and they hold all these chips, and the salesperson gets to go home at the end of the day. And the manager is then trying to work with everyone's individual issues. And so not everyone's going to be cut out for this kind of thing. You have to, again, like I said, have the risk tolerance, the ability to delegate things, the natural inclination towards either micro or macro management. Like, do you nitpick over every little thing? Not everyone can zoom out and see that bigger picture while trusting other people to handle all the details. So for me, stepping into the visionary role has just honestly been this series of ups and downs. Even with the challenges, I will say that the highs are so much greater than the lows. The more lows I've gone through, the more I know that I'm going to get through them. And I know that process to do so, but I learn something new each time. And I now have gotten to the place where I welcome the lows and the sense of accomplishment and seeing once what was like literally a scribble on a piece of paper. Like I literally scribbled out when you walk into our office, what's behind our desk. To see that come to reality, that's just something that you can't put a price on. So I just wanted to share that with you guys today, as I know that a lot of you sit in this seat. Thank you for joining me on this journey. As always, I hope that sharing my experiences gives you the inspiration, the guidance that you're looking for in your life and your career. It's obviously dabbles into other sectors and fields rather than just aesthetics, but I really hope that this resonates with you today. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review. As always, let's make this world a more beautiful, better place, one step at a time. Thank you guys so much. Signing off. Until next time, have a wonderful day. Congratulations, you have done it. You've reached the end of an episode on the Curated Beauty Podcast and have enriched a part of your self-care by discovering something new. I hope this time together added a little perspective to your day and will ultimately boost your confidence and give you the strength to do all the hard things. As we walk through this journey together, follow our Curated Beauty Podcast. And if this resonated with you, share it with a friend, save the episode, and also follow our social media platforms in the show notes. We love to engage with our listeners on all levels.